and you can catch up with more fun and laughter next Saturday evening with the two Ronnies. Later tonight at 10 PM on BBC One we have Match of the Day featuring today's Melchester Rovers game against Wilmington-on-Sea Wanderers. But now, with all the latest in the music scene, it's this week's episode of Baggy Hi-Fi. Greetings cats and kittens, welcome once again to Baggy Hi-Fi, this YouTube channel devoted to record collecting and the vinyl community here in the UK. Well, it's bank holiday weekend here in England and I have been buying a few records in the last few weeks. So although it's not so long since my last vinyl finds video, I thought I would do another one and show you what I've been buying. Had a birthday recently, so I had a bit of birthday money, so always an excuse to buy some records. Although this first one was a gift. It was a VCLT gift from John Bellamy, VC video maker who lives in Wales. And so thanks very much. A nice surprise from John Bellamy. Do subscribe to his channel. So you've probably seen me show quite a lot of sort of 60s bubblegum and pop and sort of garage pop, psych pop on my videos, and thought I would like this, and I do. And it's a record I've never had before, and it's a compilation on the Buddha label, famous for lots of bubblegum records in the late 60s. It's called Pop Explosion. Nice sort of pop art, neo-pop art cover on there. So some of the tracks on here are, you know, those well-known Casanets Cats productions, bubblegum tunes with late 60s embellishments on the top, you know, a bit of sitar here and there, a bit of psychedelia, you know, like Quick Joey Small, the Lemon Pipers' Chewy Chewy by Ohio Express, a classic. But there are some tracks on here that I never heard before, and they're all really good. There's a track by a band called The Beads, I'd never heard of before. It's a really catchy one, and also one by The Shadows of Night called Shake, and I'm probably going to do a needle drop of that one because it's sort of later on Shadows of Night, and it's quite a funky sort of dance tune, but definitely worth hearing. So nice sleeve on this one. So thanks very much, John. It's on the Buddha label, in very good condition, plays very nicely. There's that Buddha logo on there. So that's the Buddha Records Pop Explosion from some time, probably about 1969, 1970 perhaps. Now the next one is also from the 60s. It's a film soundtrack of a film I've not seen but heard of, 1968 film called Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush. So I saw this one in my favourite antique emporium over in Hartlepool, and whose record section has expanded recently, so there's lots and lots of goodies for me to have a look through and scour through. Anyway, so here's the soundtrack album of Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush. As I say, a film from 1968, soundtrack by Spencer Davis Group, Traffic, also Andy Ellison from that late 60s band that Mark Bolan was in, John's Children. Anyone else on here? No, so it's shared really between mainly Spencer Davis Group and Traffic. I think the title track from this film was a hit. I'll do a needle drop of that one. Also on it is a Traffic tune from their first album, Mr. Fantasy, which is their most psychedelic album. And this track on here, included on this soundtrack, is utterly simple, but I did read about it, and it's a slightly different version from the original on the original Mr. Fantasy label. So yeah, very, very nice condition, this one, almost unplayed on the United Artists label. Lovely to have, lovely cover. As I say, I've never seen the film, but it does star some 60s stalwarts of British films: Barry Evans, Judy Geeson, Adrian Poster, Diane Keane, who would pop up in some 70s sitcoms. It's supposed to be quite, you know, kind of a film about a young man moving from girl to girl and discovering that he wasn't happy, I believe. So in the end, hopefully he found true love. But yeah, lovely, lovely sleeve. Nice record too. Now this next one I just got last week in my favourite record shop in Newcastle upon Tyne, RPM Records. If you're ever in Newcastle, I do recommend that shop. And this one caught my eye because it's by Petula Clark, who was very well known in the 60s, very mainstream singer. I think she started probably in the 50s or late 40s. She had her own TV series. But the reason why this caught my eye is partly because Don't Sleep in the Subway is on it, which is... who could not like that song, and lovely arrangement on that one. So, you know, I wanted to have that one on vinyl. But it's from 1967, this record, and it's called These Are My Songs. And I've always been interested in very sort of mainstream artists as they responded to the late 60s and, you know, hippie music and psychedelia. And so she has a go at the song Groovin', and also a version of San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Some Flowers in Your Hair. And I think I'll do a needle drop of that one too, because she had very good, perfect enunciation, did Pet Clark, and a very nice voice, but she can't help saying, "Are you going to San Francisco?" So it's very sort of English take on that. Who was it by? Was it by Barry Mackenzie? No, maybe I'm getting mixed up. Anyway, it's a nice album, and the arrangements are very nice. And looking at the liner notes, some of the playing was from Hal Blaine on drums, so I guess it was maybe the Wrecking Crew who are doing the backing on these tracks. Really nice album. It was only £6, and the only album I own by Pet Clark, or Petula Clark.
are going to San Francisco, be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. If you are going to San Francisco, you're gonna meet some gentle people there. All those who come to San Francisco, summertime will be a-loving there. In the streets of San Francisco, gentle people with flowers in their hair.
Next is a compilation, a Pebbles compilation. So this should come as no surprise. I've been trying to fill in some of the gaps in my collection of Pebbles compilations. This is volume 9. I always liked the sleeve on this one, but never actually owned a copy. And on first listen, doesn't seem as strong as some of the earlier volumes of Pebbles. And if you don't know what Pebbles are, then they are collections of original punk rock from the psychedelic 60s, usually by lesser known bands, but always some great gems to discover on these compilations. But yeah, after a few listens, this is a really strong collection in the Pebbles series. Now that one is from the 60s, a collection of 60s tunes, I should say. This one is same style, but from the 80s. And this is a garage revival band called The Unclaimed, who I always heard a few tracks by on in the 80s, and but never actually had an album, or this is a mini album by this band. And they were fronted by a fellow called Shelley Gantz, and on lead vocals and rhythm guitar, and Rich Coffey playing lead guitar. So I always wondered whether that was his real name. This is a mini album, and it's very, very strong, in the vein of Pebbles type bands. I think most of the tunes on here are originals written by Shelley Gantz. Excellent stuff. And I think, you know, these are decades apart, but the same kind of music. So can we say that this is really a revival of that style, because there are still bands playing in this style today? And so the style continues, that garage style. And sort of proof of that is I just managed to get a copy of this book, which is really the Bible of garage and psychedelic revival bands, if we're going to call it a revival. And there really was, from the 80s onwards, as you know, the Nuggets compilations were discovered, and then in their wake came the Pebbles compilations. Really explosion of bands playing in that style. And this is a book written by Timothy Gasson. This is the 2014 updated version, and it is absolutely just packed full of info on garage and psych bands, and managed to get this at quite a good price. It's quite usually fairly expensive, but I'm going to enjoy looking through this. The Knights of Fuzz, the new garage and psychedelic music explosion. 500 pages, all updated in 2014.
Baby,
This next record I also picked up at my favourite antique place in Hartlepool, Kiwi Trading, and I've been looking for a nice copy of this Jack Bruce album for a while, his first solo album after leaving Cream. And if you haven't heard this album, it's not really like Cream. It's not really in that sort of blues rock vein, although it does have the the recognisable singing of Jack Bruce and that very sort of busy jazzy bass playing. But it's not really like Cream, as I say. This is a wonderful record, thoroughly recommended if you've never heard it. He kept up his collaboration, Jack Bruce kept up his collaboration with Pete Brown, who was lyric writer for some of the Cream tunes, and he writes all of the lyrics on this album. But the musicians who appear on here are definitely taken from the early 70s British jazz scene. Harry Beckett, Henry Lowther on trumpet, Dick Hextall-Smith and Art Thiemann, John Heisman on drums from Colosseum. But it's not really a jazz album either. It's kind of a weird amalgam of sort of Jack Bruce, slightly jazzy rock music, but very, very individual and really, really accomplished, and songs for a tailor. So I'm really glad to have a original copy of this on the Polydor label. The album afterwards I've shown before as well, Harmony Row. I'm not sure really whether I like that one better than this one, but certainly really, really strong record, songs for a tailor, and nice to have a nice conditioned copy of it. Now over to Canterbury. For this, I was really pleased to see this in RPM Records in Newcastle last week. I saw Pete from Sounds from the West Coast show this record. It's a double album, and I've been trying to get a copy online, and with not much success. I was even thinking about ordering it from France from a website, and probably the postage would have cost me more than the record. So I was really, really pleased to find this double collection of rarities by the Canterbury late 60s, early 70s Canterbury band trio Egg. Dave Stewart on keyboards, Mont Campbell and Clive Brooks trio. And this is radio sessions, some live stuff, things recorded for demos when the band were called Uriel. As I say, double album, totally unofficial. It's on the French Verne label. Great sound, nice pressing. So Egg, yeah, that Canterbury sound, very sort of influenced, I guess, by The Nice and early Soft Machine. Dave Stewart went on to play in Hatfield in the North. But Egg had their own very sort of chamber sound, Hammond organ, that very early prog sound, which I like. And you can virtually smell the patchouli in the air and the smell of damp loon pants listening to this record. It's not to everyone's taste, I guess, but been really, really enjoying this, and so glad to be able to pick it up. A copy in a record shop, a local record shop, without having to spend a fortune tracking it down from Europe. So that's Saturn by Egg, a collection of radio sessions, early demos and rare live recordings, 1968 to 1971. Also staying in the early 70s, another Peter Hammill solo album. I think I showed In Camera in one of my recent videos, one of his, I think it was 1974 album. This is an earlier one. This is from 71 or I'm not quite sure, but it's before In Camera. It's a beautiful condition original, and the sleeve is designed by Paul Whitehead, who did not only some of the Van de Graaff Generator covers, but also those early Genesis albums, Foxtrot, and what's the other one? Nursery Crime. Yeah, but this album is quite sort of gothic, especially side 2. All the Bandograph Generator musicians play on it, but the thing is with Peter Hammill's solo records is they're pretty much sort of singer-songwriter albums, but yet with that really kind of distinctive, often atonal Bandograph Generator backing as well. So it's a peculiar mix. As I say, the side 2 really goes into quite grim gothic territory. Chameleon in the Shadow of the Night, the album is called, and it's one of my favourite Peter Hammill solo records. An original on the Mad Hatter Charisma label. Now moving forward to the 80s, this is a record I did know of. I did know the music, the tunes on, but never had a copy, and managed to find this sealed copy of Roky Erickson's mini album. Roky Erickson, of course, famous for originally being in the 13th Floor Elevators, Texan legend, no longer with us. But this is I say, a mini album with 5 tracks, lovely songs, not particularly psychedelic, almost quite country rock really in parts. You Don't Love Me Yet, Clear Night for Love, Starry Eyes, absolutely classic Roky Erickson songs. So I think this is a reissue from, it's 1985 album originally, but I think this is a reissue. Yeah, it came out in 2019, and nice to add to my Roky collection. As I say, very, very strong tunes on this one. Now, the title of this video is With the Groovy Gang, and this is an oddity I picked up. The album purports to be by a combo called the Groovy Gang, and it is Songs for Swinging Children on the Contour, Budget UK Contour label, and it is hits from the time, Yellow Submarine, Boom Banga Bang, Yummy Yummy Yummy, Puppet on a String, Sugar Sugar. So it's all those hits of the late 60s, early 70s, recorded by session musicians, presumably aimed at a sort of early teenage market, and a really peculiar sleeve there, that 11-year-old dressed as Frank Sinatra. But just had to pick it up, and I will do a needle drop of it. Can't say I'll play it too much, but now the Groovy Gang, it did ring a bell with me, and I remembered that it was from Only Fools and Horses, that UK sitcom, and the character Rodney, I think it was an episode where they were in a holiday camp, and Rodney was ended up being in this kind of teenage holiday entertainment group who were named the Groovy Gang. But that would have been after this was recorded. But yeah, so want to go in the oddities section of the Baggy Hi-Fi archives. So hope everyone's well and enjoying this bank holiday weekend. The weather here in the north isn't particularly great. It's still fairly chilly, but hope it's nice where you are. So that's my latest vinyl finds, and see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.
There used to be a time when we lived in the band. We used to loom about the Genesis and Anne. Now looking back, it seemed to be a happy time. And so we kid ourselves, we didn't really mind the hang-ups and the lack of friends. The vocal artist and the group was Muriel. We played 5 nights a week at Bright Castle Hotel. We spent our time avoiding skinheads and the law. strikes anymore, but I can't make it rain because you're only lightning again. Lightning never strikes anymore, but I can't make it rain because you're only cause me pain. Because you don't love me, yeah. You don't love me, yeah. I just would forgive because you don't love me. You don't love me, yeah. I think I'm sophisticated because I'm living my life like a good homo sapien. But all around, everybody's multiplying and they're walking on the climb's mountain. So I know back about the animals sitting in the cages in the zoo, man. 'Cause compared